You are there guys, this is Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Trojan Airsoft Olympus CQB site in Stockport. Now this isn't to be confused with the Macclesfield Woodland site that we've already taken a look at. If that's the Trojan Airsoft site you're interested in, there's a link in the description down below that's going to take you to that particular video view. Again, I'd like you to bear in mind that these are based on my first impressions of the site, so that's my thoughts and opinions of the day I turned up. It's entirely possible that I turned up on a bad day, it's entirely possible that I turned up on a good day. So try and keep that in mind as we go through this video review. And as always, there's links on either side of me here and here. So if there's a specific part of the video you'd like to skip to, say you want to find out what the on-site facilities are like, what the staff's like, what the terrain itself is like, just click on either of those and it's going to go straight to that part of the video. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. The site's located in Stockport, which is a stone's throw away from Manchester. I've put the site address in the description down below, so if you're coming there by sat nav, just put that in and it's going to lead you straight there. I personally had no troubles navigating there, but the satellite address isn't going to plonk you straight on the doorstep. There is a little one-way system you need to follow. It puts you next to the building, however. I'm going to put up a satellite image just here, and I'm going to mark in blue where the satellite navigation dropped me off, and in yellow the route you need to take from that point to get to the site. There's a bus depot and a one-way system that you just need to go around the outside of. At the traffic lights you can actually turn left in the route marked in red, but this is a bus lane only and so you shouldn't really be taking it. But I did notice there were no cameras on the road if that's something you do by accident, so it's not going to be the end of the world. Once you come up to the site, you're looking for the Trojan Airsoft banner on the outside of these metal fences. Going to throw up some photos of the outside of the building. Everything you see in this building is a playable floor. The site itself is absolutely huge. Once you park up, you just find a space in front of the main building. Try and avoid the main entrance so people can get in and out, and just be wary to leave some space for others. And once you step through the front door, if you take a right down a flight of stairs, and that is your safe zone. Site prices are slightly higher than that of the Woodland sites, with that being £30 for a non-member walk-on fee and £25 for a member fee. If you're planning on hiring for the day, £45 is going to get you 3,000 rounds of .2s, an AEG, camo, full face mask, a smoke grenade and a bang grenade. And also if you plan on chucking an extra £10 away, for £55 that's going to get you a pistol as well, which is especially useful in the staircases of the building. It's also worth noting that Trojan runs midweek night games at the site and also some occasional Resident Evil zombie themed days, which I personally didn't have a chance to experience, but I've heard from some of the local players that it's quite good, and looking at the layout of the site I can genuinely believe that. For those days in the midweek it's £15 walk on whether you're a member or not, and £20 for the hires. Now for the hires I'm not sure if that gets you the exact same package as it does on the weekend. It doesn't actually list it on the website. So ask the guys at Trojan before you turn up, or you might be expecting something than you're actually going to get. When you walk through the front door, in terms of on-site facilities, if you go straight forward, you're going to find yourself in Trojan's completely decked out airsoft shop. This has absolutely everything you can possibly want. Gas, grenades, ammo, but also spare mags, AEGs, camo, webbing, and even gas handguns. So it is a complete and fully functional airsoft shop with on-site tech support and a little shooting range out the back. Downstairs in the safe zone, you've got a wide open space for setting up all your gear, including the kitchens, which gives you your free breakfast and cooked lunch on the day. And also this little enclosed space off in the corner where if you put your glasses on you can test fire your guns in there, and it's completely enclosed so there's no chance of BBs flying out the top of that. So overall I was incredibly impressed with the amount of on-site facilities that Trojan has. There's nothing that you can possibly be wanting when you turn up. They've got everything covered. The staff at Olympus came across to me as pretty laid back, and whilst this meant they were very friendly and approachable, it also meant they seemed less authoritative at times, particularly during the morning safety brief. There was one player who just kept talking over them the entire time they were trying to do the safety brief, and whilst it can be funny at times, it just lengthened the safety brief and it was starting to irritate people. So if you get someone like that, just get them to pipe down before it starts annoying everybody. During the actual games themselves though, the marshals were very fair in how they dealt with situations. They were extremely quick to jump on situations where rules had been broken, and they were very good at dealing with players that were getting a bit angsty about it, so credit to where it's due for them for that. In terms of the players themselves, I didn't really get speaking to that many, just because the tables in the safe zone are set so far away from everybody else, it's hard to get speaking to people. But the regulars I did have a couple of conversations with came across as decent enough people. There was only 1 or 2 players throughout the day on both sides that had got very short tempers, and they were the kind of people that both simultaneously bitched about the rules and broke them themselves. And whilst that did kind of sour the day a little bit, I can't personally blame the site for that, because the marshals were very good at dealing with them when situations like that arose. So it's airsoft, it happens. I just think on this particular day we had some people turn up that maybe weren't the best kind, but credit to where it's due for the marshals, they managed to handle it very well. So what's the site itself like to play in? Well, considering now it's essentially one large building, I like how they've managed to make each of the floors feel different and unique from the last. They range from wide open spaces to bits with lots of cover on offer to very tight confines. The bottom floor even has some greenery growing in it, which whilst sounds a little bit daft, it does actually add to the atmosphere of the place and makes it feel different. There are some floors of the building that are completely blacked out. What I mean by this is there's no lighting in there. If you don't have a torch, you're not going to be able to see what you're doing. And whilst I would have loved to show you these floors in all their glory, my camera struggled to pick up the features of the place due to the sheer darkness of it. So you'll have to take my word when I say that these are some of the best parts of the site to play in. Again, they have these very large open rooms in one of them where there's not that much cover on offer, but then again, your guy could be standing up against the wall and you never see him. So that adds an extra layer to it. You also get some tight offices that are again pitch black, and trying to round these corners when you know that there's an enemy hiding in there, it adds to the tension of it, which is very hard to convey by camera, but once you're in that room, by God do you feel it. In terms of different parts of the site, the cover on offer ranges from large nets to these solid wood barricades to cardboard boxes, which whilst they don't sound like cover, like the BB should be able to punch straight through cardboard, they have filled them with these plastic containers to make sure they are BB proof, so they're not just visual cover. But because nothing's bolted down, the site can be rearranged at a moment's notice. So I imagine that if you're a regular that keeps coming back to this place, the site would change up each and every time, which will certainly add some replayability to it. As well as all this, the guys at the site recently bought out the indoor paintball place next door and have knocked through the wall and added that to the site. And this adds a whole other layer to the building because everything there is built exclusively from car tyres. There's just enough light to be able to see what you're doing, but it really adds to the atmosphere of the place when you've got smoke grenades going off and torchlights peeking through the tyre walls. It just makes it incredibly cool to play in. In terms of the atmosphere as well, the marshals add to this during the game. You'll often find them chucking down smoke grenades just to give players a bit of an advantage and incentive to move forward and get stuff done. But also they'll be chucking these little firecrackers down and they add some explosions in the background. And whilst I can appreciate the thoughts, and it does add to the authenticity of it, what I'd like is for them to not chuck down so many at any given time, because the chains of these tend to be quite long when they go off. And I've got a clip here of me trying to talk to a teammate and we can't hear each other because it's about a minute of this firecracker going off.
One on the far left behind the woods.
So whilst I appreciate what you're trying to do with the firecrackers, just lengthen the amount that are going off at any given time just so it adds to the atmosphere but it doesn't deafen everybody in it. Also, let's try and set them off as far away from players as possible. I know one guy was confused, he thought it was a grenade that had gone off and he wasn't quite sure what was cracking off. But for the most part, I like what they're doing about trying to add to the atmosphere. It just shows extra effort on their part and it really does show in the games. The first 2 games of the day were a capture the flag game type and a bomb rush played across multiple floors, where one team would start on the bottom of the building, the other team would start at the top, and the objectives would be somewhere in the middle. We didn't know where, we had to go find it. And whilst this sounded good in practice, how it turned out in actual reality was that a load of people ended up cramped into the staircases because the other team were quite content to sit at the top of the stairs, pistols drawn, and the instant anyone poked their head around the corner, they got their head blown off. Another game type they did was an infection type, where me and 2 other players started at the top of the building and we had to clear the entirety of the site, going through room by room, and anyone we shot joined our team. And I think this game type worked a hell of a lot better because nobody was hiding around the staircases. You were allowed to freely move between floors in the building. I particularly enjoyed that one. And finally there was a large attack and defend game type where an entire team would have to clear a floor at a time, and any of the defenders that got killed had to regen at the next floor and wait there for the attackers to regroup and then attack that floor until the entire building had been swept. Again, this was a good game type because you weren't getting people clustered around the staircases. You had the opportunity to explore the site and to actually get out of these staircases and into cover before people start shooting at you. Now, it might seem like I'm harking on about these staircases a lot, and that's because Trojan has a rule whereby in the staircases you can only use pistols, and you can only fire these pistols when you're actually on the flat landing bits and not the actual steps themselves. Now, how this turns out is that you get a load of people camping at the top of the staircases, handguns drawn, and as I say, the instant you try and poke your head around that corner, you're going to get it blown off by someone who's just waiting there with his handgun drawn. Whilst I do agree that AEGs should not be using these stairs, and I think this is probably the best rule they have going for it, it's certainly better than no pistols or knife kills only or anything rubbish like that. It's certainly the best thing to do it. If you're going to enforce that rule, make it absolutely clear where pistols need to be drawn and where you cannot shoot them from. There was some confusion caused during the day, like say you're in the staircases but the guy's at the opposite end of the building. Can you then shoot an AEG at him, or do you have to use your pistol? Or if you're the guy at the opposite end of the building, do you have to use a pistol to shoot into the staircases across the floor? Just paint the floors or something. Make it so that even the dumbest person in the world knows that if you're standing on this point, you need a handgun, and if you're standing on this point, you cannot fire at all. So, is Olympus CQB site worth a visit? Well, if you're from Manchester or the surrounding areas, personally I think it is, as long as you bear two things in mind. One, bring full face and a torch. You're going to want to cover your face up when you're in this building because the engagement ranges are incredibly close. And I can speak from experience, being hit on the tooth kills. It is absolute agony. So bring full face. Also, you're going to need the torch because otherwise there are going to be entire floors of the building where you can't do anything because you can't see what you're doing. So make sure you bring full face and a torch with you. Two, this is hardcore CQB. You are going to get shot at close range and it is going to hurt. If that's something that puts you off, perhaps this site isn't for you, but for everybody else, the combat here is fast, it is brutal, and it is incredibly exhilarating, knowing that your enemy is just round that corner and you've got to make a move before he decides to turn it and shoot you down first. It's all about reaction times. Just, can you hit that guy before he hits you? And it really boils down to who is the better gunslinger. And there's nothing more tense than trying to clear a pitch black room and you know there are guys hiding in the surrounding bits but you can't see them, and you just know that at any minute they're going to pop out and start a firefight. It's incredibly fun to play at this site, but only if you can accept the fact that it's going to hurt when you get shot at close range. I personally am not a particular CQB orientated player, so whilst this site didn't play to my particular play styles, I did enjoy my time here. And certainly if you have been to CQB Airsoft before and you are looking for a brand new challenge, then I would recommend this site is a good place to start. Now, I hope you've enjoyed my video review of the Trojan Airsoft CQB Olympus site. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, feedback you'd like to leave, comment section down below, just drop something in there and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And until next time, this has been Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft.